Hi everyone, welcome to the 14 by 12 top bar hive apiary here at the fishing lakes. Today we're going to carry out an inspection on the large monster hive that you can see behind me. I came over last week, did an inspection. They were absolutely rammed with bees and needed some more frames urgently. All I had was a standard wooden 14 by 12 brood box. So I thought, well, I'll get that on and see how they've done. Needed the extra space, it was just getting desperate in there. So we'll have a look today to see how they're doing. I've brought some more frames along just in case they've done exceptionally well. We'll see how they're going. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. Yeah, so we'll have an inspection through there, see how they're done. The 14 by 12 nukes that we've got here are all earmarked for sale, and today we're also going to be marking and clipping those. Hence I've got these are short cuff nitrile gloves. I don't really want to be picking up queens with marigold gloves on. They're just not sensitive enough, particularly when we're marking and clipping. So we're going to do some of that as well. We might show that on the video towards the end, but we'll have a look at this colony. The smoker, for once the smoker is going really well, so I need to go and rescue that off the back of the truck, grab the hive tools, and we'll see how these bees are doing. Well, it's a beautiful day here in Norfolk. We've got some lovely weather, and I think that these bees have done particularly well. So we've got two supers on. They're absolutely rammed. So this is summer honey, and then as I say, I added this brood box. So we'll bring the camera in and break it down and see how they're doing. So before I break it down, you'll notice that we've got the queen excluder above this brood box. And the reason for that is that I wanted to give the queen some more room to lay, particularly at this time of the year. With a strong nectar flow on, they will tend to fill every available cell with nectar. And so what I wanted to do was to give them some room so that as they create some cell space, the queen could get up there and lay. Hopefully they're working on that, and things are developing well. So let's just split it down. I'll start off by taking the two supers off, and then we'll move the queen excluder across on top of the super and lift this box down, and then we'll bring the camera in a bit closer so you can see what's going on. So we've got lots of bees working up here in the supers. We'll just put a little bit of smoke in there so they know that we're coming. Not too much, because we don't want to turn the honey into smoked honey. But we'll just lift this. Well, that's really heavy. So that's a nice full super. Blimey. Not quite so many bees in this one, but let me just see if I can pop one to show you what they're up to without disturbing them too much. Oh, look at that. So that's ready to come off. I mean, this super is pretty much fully capped all the way across, hence there aren't that many bees in there. So we'll get this one off as well. I always find these plastic excluders tend to get a little bit stuck. Oh, crikey, that's two very full supers. I'm just going to scrape off some of this wax so that when we put the queen excluder down, I'm not going to crush any bees on it. There we go. Just drop that into the roof for the moment. Then we can take this off, knock the bees off, just in case the queen, for whatever reason, had been up and on that. And I'm not surprised, to be honest. We'll lift this off and bring the camera in so you can have a closer look, but let me just show you what they've been up to. So this was put on 6 days ago. Pretty much every frame is like this. Pretty much every frame has been drawn. That's great. That's really good news. Nice strong colony. Right, so next job, lift this box off. We'll inspect the bottom box first, and the reason that the queen excluder is on here is because if the queen is in this top box, and I'll lift this box across and just put it straight down onto the supers, that queen could then slip through and get into the supers, and before you know it, all of that lovely honey has got great big holes in the middle where they've cleaned it out and allowed the queen to lay her eggs in it. So we don't want the queen, if she's in this top box, to sneak through into the supers and spoil all of the fun in there. We've got, let's think, about another week to 10 days until the end of the season in terms of the blackberry here. So we've got about 10 days until the end of the month, and for us here in Norfolk with the blackberries, that will be it. I am tempted to put another box on and see what they do with it, but I don't think I'm going to. We'll get this off if I can. Wow. Of course, it's stuck to the bottom, so that's really heavy too. Not the kind of box that you want to be lifting when it's absolutely full. Okay, so if the queen is in that box, she's not going to get through. Come on, off you get. She's not going to get through into the supers and make a mess up there. So we'll bring the camera in now, and we'll have an inspection through this bottom box, and then we'll go through the top box as well. So the film director has told me that I've got to use this today because it'll get me closer to the hive, and you'll be able to see what I'm doing and see the hive at the same time. I wouldn't probably use that. That's me just knocking the hive. I wouldn't normally use this seat on this hive, but there we are. Actually, it's nice table height really, and the seat has been quite useful. Amazon, it's called a Draper Garden Kneeler seat, I think, about £20, and to be honest, with my bad back, worth every penny. So I hope you're all well and your season is going okay. We've had a really mixed bag. Okay, so that's a standard national, so we can shift this if we want to, get that into a national hive. Probably put it in there because we were short of frames probably. The bees have been generally pretty good. This hive specifically has been pretty good. Seeing lots of nectar coming in now. That frame's not the greatest. A little bit of brood at the bottom on the side that's facing me. And for anybody who's new to beekeeping, let me just demonstrate how I manipulate the frames really, because sometimes, unless you're told or shown how to do it, it can be almost like a mystical art. So I've got my standard hive tool. I use the short end in between the two frames. I don't put it between the lugs, because that, if you've got a weakness in the lug, it can snap the lug. So always go between the frames and use the fulcrum lever to just ease it apart. It's really simple. What I also do is I use my left hand, right hand if you're left-handed, but whatever makes it comfortable for you. My left hand, as I open that up, is already gripping the lug, and that also means that you can't use the Hive tool to open up the frame because your fingers are there, so you have to go in here. Now that works for me because I don't have to worry about this left hand now, because I'm already holding the frame. You know, if bees run around, I know that I'm not going to put my fingers or thumb down on a bee and get stung. I could still get stung if they got riled up with me, but I've already got that, and you can see I'm moving the frame about. That's accessible to me. So then I use my Hive tool again on the opposite side, ease the frame open. I'm watching the lug, and I'm already down with my fingers to lift it up. And then I can lift the frame up nice and smoothly. So we've taken the frame away from the next frame in. We've made a gap between the two outside frames. And then we can just lift it up nice and gently to carry out our inspection. So as I lift it up, if you're not on camera, you can lift it straight up and look at the frame that's facing you. So you can look at the side that you're looking at. Obviously, you can't see me doing that. But then to look at the other side, you drop one side, spin the frame around and turn it back up. And then you can look at the other side. So if I do that again, spin it round, square it off. So let's do that again. So we lift it a little bit higher, drop one side of the frame, spin it round, and then level it off so that the top is now at the bottom and the bottom is at the top. And I can quite happily look at the frame. Obviously it's not a top bar frame, so I can tilt it to get the sun shining down on the bees. Spin it round and up and down, spin it round and down. It's really simple to manipulate. So we've got worker brood, we've got pollen, we've got nectar and honey going in there. Let's just pull that down. I've got these short cuff gloves on, and just getting a little bit exposed around the wrist. So fingers on the lug, open up, move across and lift. So one of the things that you have to bear in mind, particularly if you're on double brood, and so this is called a double brood, is that you will have a situation where you've got maybe a slightly different look to the boxes, because the queen is going up into the top box as well. You might find that the brood gets scattered around a little bit. So we've got some queen cells. There's rudimentary queen cups here, so I'm just going to ease, and these bees haven't swarmed all year, so that's quite nice. We've used some of the frames from here actually to produce some of the nukes that are in this apiary that are due to be collected. So what I'm doing is just opening up these rudimentary queen cups to see if there's any sign of eggs in them, because as they are, they're not really that much of a problem. It's when they get an egg or young larvae in that they then become a queen cell. So let me spin this round and show you. I've opened up These 3 cells, nothing in them, so they're just rudimentary queen cups. I've opened up this one and we've got a very young larvae in there in a pool of royal jelly. So that's a queen cell, and that's the difference. Rudimentary queen cups, nothing in it. If there's something in it, it becomes a queen cell. So before we do anything else, I need to make sure that we've got eggs. And actually, rather sneakily, the frame that I took out of the top box, I actually saw that we had got some eggs in there, so I know that we've got eggs. Now we might not have the queen, and they might have swarmed, having said that they haven't swarmed all year. So we have to just be mindful of that. Just because we've got eggs doesn't mean that they haven't swarmed. So we need to go through, and we can now make a decision on what we're going to do. And actually, what I am going to do is I'm going to take out 4 frames with bees, put them into a nuke box and create a new nuke that we can overwinter and have going through into the new year. Because this queen is a really nice queen, the bees are not terribly grumpy, nice locally adapted bees. I'm looking down in the cells here and I can see that we've got eggs. So one of the things that we could do is we could take out a queen cell and we can produce a new queen with that particular queen cell. One of the other things we could do is to remove the queen. We can take the queen out of this hive and we can pop her into a nuke box, and to be honest, that's what I'm looking for at the moment. I'm looking for the queen, and we can pop her into a nuke box and pop her into a different position in the apiary, and she can go on to then populate a nuke to overwinter, and these bees will then produce probably a range of queen cells, and we can come back in in a week's time and knock down all bar one. We could make splits with, if we've got multiple queen cells, we could put those queen cells into nuke boxes and actually split the colony right down, take the honey off and produce, well, we would probably put 4 frames into a nuke box and then have 2 frames of foundation. So if we used 4 frames from both of these boxes, then that gives us 6, potentially 6 nukes that we could create from this double brood box. And that would be a really worthwhile exercise. Plus we'd retain the queen. Now there are other considerations. We'd probably want to take the majority of those nukes to another apiary so that all the flying bees didn't just come back to one location. But that said, it's a simple enough task. Now I found the queen while I've been chatting to you. The queen's on this frame. So the next task is for us just to move her into a nuke box and set her aside with maybe a couple of frames of emerging brood and a frame of food so that she's got plenty of food and a couple of frames of foundation, and then she'll happily sit in one of the other locations here in the apiary and build up for the winter. So I'm just going to pop over and grab a nuke box and then we'll show you how that's set up. So here we are, we've got our queen on this frame. Just wanted to point her out, just so you can see she's not marked or clipped. That's something we'll do another time because we don't want to disrupt them too much. So now this frame is going into our nuke box, which we've prepared. I'm going to have a seat, and then really we're just looking to get ideally, I think a couple of frames of brood. So this kind of goes back to my previous continual mantra about making sure that they've got enough resources. So we'll pop another frame in there. So giving them sealed brood means that they have bees that are going to emerge sooner than if it was open brood, stands to reason. And what that will do, firstly, is it will take the pressure off the bees that we're giving to this colony in terms of having to maintain a temperature for very young larvae. I'm just checking for queen cells here, just knocking back. So we've got one queen cell, sorry, I need to tilt this towards the camera. So we've got one queen cell in here which we can knock out. So that's that one destroyed. Check the other side. So although this isn't a massive area of brood, there's enough there to keep them busy. So sealed brood doesn't need the same temperatures, same temperature control as very young larvae or open brood. So it's important that we give them brood that doesn't need a great deal of effort. The second thing is that that brood will emerge quite quickly. Did I mention that already? So it will emerge quite quickly, and they will be able then to get stuck in quite quickly. Just going to look for one more frame. They'll be able to get stuck in quite quickly and join the foraging force. So we've got some rudimentary queen cups on here, and then there's one or two, there's a queen cell on the bottom there. But what it will also do, excuse me for jumping around in the conversation, what it will also do is it will give the queen somewhere to lay her eggs as they go forward. So she can just continue to lay eggs without any problem at all. So that's all of the queen cells and rudimentary queen cups removed from there. So we'll just push this across. Now you could shake in a few more bees, and we might just do that. Shake another frame of bees in there, so the queens, let's do that. I'll show you how to do that. We want them to have enough resources. Remember, I go on about this resources scenario. Give myself a little bit more room, take that frame out. So we want them to have plenty of bees, so we shake some extra bees in there, but we put the frame back in the main hive. So now what we'll have, let's do one more, what we'll have is, and one more because we're going to put that frame in there, silly. We'll have all the flying bees coming back to the main hive, and it will leave just the nurse bees behind. So this was the frame that we were going to put in with her, because it's a bit of an old frame and it'll give us a chance to use new frames in this box. So there we are, we've got our queen in that box, pop the lid on, 6 frame nuke created with our existing queen. So what we can do now, rather than putting the frames of foundation in this box, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the second brood box and look for frames that have got eggs in, and I'm going to move those down into this box, and then any honey that gets stored will hopefully go in this top box, and we might be able to extract it before we split them all down. So I do just need to go through and make sure that we've got no more queen cells as yet. Now the reason I'm doing that is because I want to manage the time frame. I want to make sure that I don't have a situation where we've got queens that are going to be popping out before I'm ready for them. So, and here we've got national frame, and there's another national frame at the side there. So we've obviously just bulked these up with national frames. So we could actually move those into the top box as well if we need to. So I'm just going to jump up and around, and excuse me while I maneuver myself. I'm going to give myself a bit of room in this brood box, and I'm taking my time because I want to show you specifically how to do this, but also that this is something that you can do if you've only just started beekeeping. Keep your smoker alight, sit beside your hive, take your time. There are thousands of bees in the air, but I'm focusing on this. I'm concentrating on what I'm doing here, and those bees don't concern me. And if you just take your time, you don't have to get nervous about it, you don't have to worry about it, you can just go through and do this manipulation. So let's have a look in this top box to see if we've got some eggs. So the smoker looks as if it needs some more fuel, so I'm just going to go get some more fuel in here because we don't want to have our smoker run out before we carry on our manipulations. So here we are, smoker's back up and running, caught it just in time, and what we're now going to do is have a look through here to see if we can find ourselves some brood or eggs or both that we can move down. I mean, this is in less than a week they've drawn all of this comb. So the consideration is, do I want honey or do I want to make nukes? Well, I'd like both, please, but we're back to the old resources. So we've got some eggs in this one, so she's been quite active. Not many, but there are some eggs. So we're going to move that across and into the main hive body. And then back across, taking our time. And if it happens that we've got more frames with eggs, and again this one's got a very small patch of eggs just in here. And for those of you that struggle to see eggs, just keep at it, just keep practicing, just keep looking. It'll all work out in the end, and once you see them, it's a bit of a revelation. You'll find yourself going, oh, there they are. And once you've seen them, you'll be able to spot them in every frame that you're looking at that has eggs. So that one is just, from what I can see, is just nectar. So we've just had to swap the battery over on the camera, and we're a bit concerned we might run out of juice in the battery. So I'm going to do this reasonably quickly. While Steph swapped the battery over, I've just been checking through these. So the frames nearest me don't have any eggs in. The frames furthest away do. So we're going to move these across. Again, just a small patch, but we want to keep them in the brood nest area. So we can just shift these across quite easily. Again, same with that one, small patch of eggs. So I'm just trying to avoid crushing any bees. And then I'm going to take out the frames. We'll pop these frames that have just foundation on them. We'll get those out of the way so we don't damage them, because these are actually, you know, they take quite a bit of work to make, and you've got value in them, so you don't want to be damaging them. Different cardboard, and doesn't want to be as willing to light as the previous ones. We just give it a few puffs just to make sure that we've got some smoke. There we go. We're back alight again. Give them some smoke at the end, and we'll take these standard national frames out, and they can come across here. We've got that one remaining frame right at the end here, which we can take out, and this has got a little bit, again, a tiny tiny little circle of brood on this side that I saw somewhere, or has it? I think that might be okay actually. Yeah, that looks okay, so we can leave that one in the top box. We'll move the foundation to one side. Let's pop that. In fact, I'm going to put the standard frames out towards the edge because I don't want them confusing the situation. Oh, we've got one more, haven't we? So we'll take that out. In fact, we've got two more because the very first one I took out was also a standard national. Sometimes they stick them to the side wall, so you just have to be a bit mindful, like this one. So we'll pop that on the outside because we don't want them to mess up this other one, and that one that is messed up isn't going to be recoverable particularly. Then we've got this frame that's not badly drawn, got plenty of stalls in it, which is good. Let's just shake the bees off so we don't roll any bees, and then we can slip that in there. And then we're left with frames that contain honey and foundation, so we can tidy these up and get these frames back in to the main box. Let's just move that across. This is where we just need to have a think about what we've done. I've looked at all of the frames and I've taken down all of the queen cells. I know that will sound confusing to some of you, but it's to put me in control of the time frame that I'm hopefully now going to have in terms of queen cells. So I need to come back in a week, and we should, if they use the very young larvae, then we'll have sealed queen cells. If they use eggs, then they will be on the cusp of either being sealed or they will have just literally been sealed. But this colony now is queenless. We've got one more frame here, which is a national frame, so that can come into the top box, and we'll put one of these 14 by 12 frames into the bottom box. Nicely drawn frame, lots of nectar, and the challenge, I guess, for everyone, shake the bees off. The challenge for everyone is that decision of, do you want honey or do you want to make increase? You need a little bit of both, really. So it's important that you make the decision as to how you want to go with it and stick with it. That can go on there. Now, what I'm going to do is put the Queen Excluder back in place, really just as a memory jogger. So this is really to remind me that the bottom box now is the box with all of the eggs in it. So we'll just take the spare brood box off, get the Queen Excluder on. I have actually got a spare poly brood box, so I might swap that over, and that will free up the wooden box and we'll be back to normal again. So I think I might do that. So bear with me. I'm just going to whiz backwards and forwards, putting everything back together again, and then we'll move the nuke box that has our queen in it and put her into another part of the apiary, and then I'll just do a summing up. So here's our spare box. Just lift up the wooden brood box. Now we know we don't have a queen in here, so I can happily rest it on the supers, and then we can work our way through we'll leave that frame at the bottom, and I can actually go 2 frames at a time, lifting it across, setting it in position. The bees are a bit confused now. The queen pheromone will start to fade and they will realise that they are queenless. They'll produce emergency queen cells, and that's what we're looking for next time we come across, and we'll record another video showing you how that process works. And we're not going to get as many 14 by 12 nukes out of this as I mentioned earlier, because we've got some national frames in here, standard national, but we can use those in a standard national nuke, so it doesn't cause us too much grief really. And you can see we've taken our time, we've been gentle with them. The bees have been fine, famous last words, but they have been fine. Last frame from the spare box, that can go in the side there. Now we could replace all of these standard national frames with 14 by 12 frames, but they're actually storing in them, so I don't want to take that away from them, just give them more work. And we may find that with some of these we could actually get a small crop of honey off this top box before we split it down. So we'll just knock the bees out of the top box, and then I'm going to move this box because it will have the pheromone of the colony. If you leave it close, you'll find that the bees will tend to migrate towards it to a certain degree. So all that remains now is to just try and clear some of these bees off the top, because we don't want them sitting there and getting crushed when we put the supers on. Don't forget girls, come on. Girls, I've said it again. Right, so that's basically got them away. We can put these very heavy supers back on top. So on at an angle, and then we try to just gently brush it across, and that's now nicely in place. And then the same for the top box. Quite a number of bees on here, but we'll put it on at an angle, and then we just brush it across, and that will push bees away, and the vast majority will get away and not get crushed. That way is quite a bit. So then we've got some bees on the top here. Let's just knock these off, and I'll just show you one final look at what we've got in this box. And this is what we're after. So this would be extractable. We could take this off now, I suspect, do the shake test. There's nothing dripping out of that, so we could remove this and get that extracted. But there's very few bees in this top box because they've capped it all off. They're not interested now. They've done their work up here, so they don't need to get into it. We will have to be mindful that actually when we get through into September, when for us here at the fishing lakes, everything in terms of nectar flow dries up, we'll have to make sure that the bees don't start getting up there and eating the honey. So we do need to take it off and get it extracted. Again, put it on at an angle, push the roof across, and that will brush the bees off. I picked up the waste honey, waste wax comb. So we do need to get it off to extract, and we'll do that in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, look out for the next video. We'll come back, have a look at this. This colony has been a really good colony for us this year. So we will produce some more. You can possibly see the nuke just beside the hive. This has our queen in it. The entrances are currently blocked, so we'll pop that in the shade. I think we might move it to another apiary just so that they keep all of the bees that they've got, and they will develop. And we've got our old queen who's going to head up the nuke going over winter. I hope you found that interesting. A slightly longer video. I wanted to make sure that I went through some of the basics for the beginner beekeepers that are out there, and I hope that that has helped. We need to crack on now with some marking and clipping. I think the battery's about to die, so we'll show you some marking and clipping another day. But for now, thanks for watching.